everyone. It's time for a little talking ball on a Monday night, brought to you by our friend John Donovan over at Longhorn Wealth Management. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by the expert, the analyst, whatever you want to call him, Chief Poobah, Jerry.
There's no experts in recruiting anymore.
How does it feel 12 hours later after eating a corn dog with mayonnaise on it? That's what I want to know.
Well, I had 2 for breakfast, 2 for lunch, and 2 for dinner, so I'm great. No, I didn't.
I did not. 3 times 2 too many.
I did not.
Hey, we're going to talk a little recruiting action. Steve Sarkisian also went to the mic today, as did Georgia's Kirby Smart. We'll talk a little bit about that. Take your questions. Monday night is typically a time when we just literally do a Q&A. Jerry and I do. We are less than 48 hours now, 36 hours really, until National Signing Day begins. It is not your typical National Signing Day. If you forget about that, the NIL is no longer such a thing. There's no longer a national, or NLI is no longer a thing. No such thing as any longer as a national letter of intent. It is literally just signing scholarship papers, but we're still going to call it signing day coming up, because most of the guys will sign scholarship papers on Wednesday, Jerry, and that's going to be equivalent to no tamper after that. So that's what's going to happen. Additionally, we'll talk a little bit more about some of those guys that are thinking about that are still making decisions. We'll also talk a little bit about Oklahoma hiring its new offensive coordinator. They made a move just 2 days after they lost at LSU. They hire a young man named Arbuckle. I don't know enough about him yet, but he's from Washington State. He's originally from Canadian Texas, so he's a Texas native. We'll talk a little bit about his numbers. Matt, our producer, hopefully brings up some Washington State stats a little bit later in this episode. All right, Jerry, it's time for you to give us just a tad recruiting update. You had a 5 o'clock update or 3:45 update on Michael Fasusi, the big 5-star offensive lineman out of Louisville. He's been committed to Oklahoma, visited Texas 2 weeks ago, visited A&M this past weekend. What's the very latest on him? And Matt, would you mind playing some video of Mr. Fasusi while we talk about him?
Yeah, so look, I remain. Now, could things change with the new OC hire if Biedenball stays? I mean, I can't sit here and predict everything in this anymore, but boy, he looks like he was playing A&M right there. A little maroon action going to the ground. Look, I everything I hear, it just seems like, is everybody in maroon on this? My gosh, there's another one. I just feels like he's not going to Oklahoma, and could it change? It could. I mean, like I said, they just hired their OC. Maybe they get a last little 24 hours of magic, some Sooner magic that didn't happen on the field except for about 17 minutes this year. Maybe something happens late, but it just doesn't feel like it to me. And I've been wrong plenty in this business before, but I think there's some optimism in Austin, and and I think A&M's still fighting. But here's something. We've been saying this. I've been saying this. They went after me on Twitter for it, but Lamont Rogers he hasn't really been committed to Missouri for a while. This has been A&M.
And Lamont Rogers is a big offensive tackle.
Yeah, he officially decommitted today. I'll be shocked if he doesn't end up at A&M. But I think Texas, there's some optimism with Michael Fasusi in Austin right now. But we'll see. We have to see how this stuff finishes, because you guys have been following this. This is a wild cycle, man. I mean, it's a roller coaster without the safety belts. What this recruiting cycle is late. So we'll see what happens. But I think things are positive there as they can be in this recruiting cycle. And man, he looks really good on senior tape, by the way. And other updates from today, from this afternoon. I think Texas feels good about French. I think Texas feels good about Hicks. Florida's going to fight for Myron Charles till the end. I mean, defensive line recruiting in the Southeast region is a totally different animal than any other position. I think Justice Terry, he's announcing on the 6th. I'll still be surprised on that one. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'll be a little surprised. I just don't see Kirby letting that kid go to Texas. Now, if Auburn Auburn's won in Atlanta and Southwest Georgia before. And so we'll see. Nathaniel Marshall, I don't think Texas feels good about that one. Javion Hilson, he had been in contact with schools, and including Texas on Sunday. Today, I think he kind of went no contact with anybody from what I was told, much at all. Maybe a text here or there, but nothing else. So he's chilling. And then you got some battles out there, and then Texas is making run at some guys that we probably don't bring up right now.
Yes, fair enough. I think that's the way it goes. In other words, Jerry, there's a lot of movement in the last 72 hours here. Frankly, the last week, I've been doing this a long time. You have too. Okay. I was doing this pre-internet.
Right.
So when it was all a game of telephone, this coach said this and this player said that. Now there's the internet out there where you can kind of, understand all the information and all the players in it. What's happening now, it's changing again. Recruiting is changing again to where it's this game of telephone with agents right now and their players and the prospects that they're dealing with. And what I mean by the game of telephone, one person tells one person one thing and it changes instantaneously. And right now, these agents are doing their job, attempting to get the right place for the player. Now, the thing that's interesting to me, and I always say this, is that everybody's money is the same color, right? And what I mean by that is if the money is relatively the same, it's about where the young man wants to go to school. And so that's where a lot of these are at now. There's not a lot of changes otherwise in that regard. And so that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of overall, as we would say. All right, before we go any further and talk a little bit about what Sark had to say, as well as taking your questions, I want to say thank you to John Donovan, president of Longhorn Wealth Management. John is a proud Texas Exes Live member whose wife and 6 siblings are also UT grads. This UT family passion is what led to John to brand his firm Longhorn Wealth Management Group and dedicate it to providing investment, retirement insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. Like all Longhorn fans, John reveled in the beatdown Texas put on the Aggies on Saturday, and he is looking forward to being in Atlanta to watch our Horns battle Georgia for the SEC championship. John and the Longhorn Wealth team want to help all OTF fans beat back procrastination and other hurdles facing anyone's wealth building plans. They offer a free 90-minute consultation to help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy now. So simply call John and his team, Longhorn Wealth, 972-707-4900, or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free consultation today. John hopes to see all of you in Atlanta, and let's beat Georgia. Hook 'em. All right, Jerry, Sark today said, look, there are things, we just didn't give Georgia our best shot.
No doubt.
On, when they played them a month or so ago. He said that is what we have to do this time.
Yep.
There were a couple of things he identified as just things that were not up to par against Georgia. He felt like that his team did not identify pass rush very well for protection. He felt some one-on-one matchups in blocking or on defense, they just lost because Georgia outplayed them or outworked them or whatever you want to call it, but they just lost. And then the third one was, he said, look, against man, we weren't getting real open against man coverage. He said those were the 3 things that he really circled, along with a list of issues that were he categorized as things we need to clean up, like false start penalties, if you remember those, some of that sort of stuff. He thought that overall his team just did not give Georgia its best shot.
Yeah, look, and the other thing, I think a little bit in coverage for Texas defense, because the one thing I've been thinking about the game, kind of went back and watched a little bit of it. Georgia had more wide receivers open against Texas than any other opponent this year. You got to remember, they had 4 or 5 drops in that game, like 3 that would have been first downs. Yep. And then Beck was in a bad place. at that stretch of his season. It ended up with 12 interceptions in SEC play, but none in the last 2 games. So that's the other piece to that. And that may have been what Sark was talking about, some matchups too on defense. But Georgia had more guys open at the wide receiver position than anybody that's played Texas this year. And look, they're the most talented team Texas has played this year. But I think a big thing is Sark's in a pretty good place for this game this week, I believe, because he is coaching a team that kind of got bullied in their own house and physically beat up. That's a pretty good place to be as a coach. And you don't really have to motivate your guys when they go back and watch this tape now for a second time and kind of see their butt get whipped. That's a pretty good place to be for Sark this week. So Georgia's going to get Texas' best shot. My question is, with Georgia, can Kirby get them up like that again? I don't think he can. I don't think he can, Bobby. I mean, that was kind of like a John Calipari, us against the world. We're going into Austin. Everybody's picking us to lose. Nobody thinks we're going to win. You guys stink. Blah, they're going to beat you up. I mean, the whole John Calipari thing he did with one of the best college basketball teams ever all year. I don't know if Kirby can go that route with his team again this week against Texas. He's going to have to find a different motivation for his guys. So it's an intriguing game. I expect Texas to match the physicality in this go round. And if they match the physicality, the one thing I'm interested to see from Sark is how is he going to attack Georgia differently offensively? Because the same issues persist. Georgia has the linebacker group that can go play in space against the Texas perimeter passing game. Big, fast guys who can really are quick and fast. That's the only team. Oklahoma is good. They're good in pass pro. I mean, Stutzman's an instinctive guy. They're pretty good in pass coverage, but not to the athleticism of the Georgia guys. So the same issue Sark had last time, he still got in this game. So how's he going to attack Georgia differently?
Yes, absolutely. I think that Georgia's got its own set of issues. They're a little banged up at running back right now as well. And so I half wonder, Jerry, about this game. Like, to your point, how much is Georgia in it? I guess we'll see. Right? That's the question that I think everybody's going to ask, and we'll see what happens. Ben Arbuckle is his name. That is the new offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Just 29 years old, by the way. He worked with Zach Kitley, the Texas Tech offensive coordinator at Western Kentucky.
New FAU head coach, apparently.
Yeah. So let's see how that goes. But my point being, a lot of stuff going on there. We'll have to see exactly what happens.
Including the quarterback that may come with him from Little Elm High School.
A quarterback, Mateer is his name. Is that correct?
Yeah.
John Mateer. I think he's going to be a guy that likely makes that move. Mateer, by the way, was the starter at Washington State. He succeeded Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Mateer, what does this mean for Jackson Dart? I don't know. Jackson Arnold. We don't know. Points per game for Washington State this year, 33.7 yards per game, 422 points per play. I'm not sure how that ranks, but it says 22 in the country. Third down conversion, 56%. Yards per play, number 35. Fourth down conversion, 73rd. I would say this about him. It sounds like he's from the, run and shoot tree, or Cliff Kingsbury tree, whatever you want to call it, Mike Leach, etc. Focusing a lot on pass, it looks like right now. He was also at one point in time at what was Houston Baptist, now Houston Christian, with Bailey Zappa. That quarterback as well.
Who was really talented. Yeah. Who ended up having a great career. All right. Yep. Absolutely. We'll see what happens if he brings the quarterback. I saw Mateer in high school at Little Elm when I was there to watch Terrence Brooks, when Terrence Brooks was still committed to Ohio State, was flirting with the idea of Texas. I went up and Mateer he was an impressive kid. I think he's better probably than anybody thought he was going to be at the same time, though. But he was impressive from a leadership, toughness standpoint. But I think he's kind of exceeded all expectations, even probably the people that recruited him, honestly.
I wonder what's going to happen now with Jackson Arnold.
Yeah,
and Michael Hawkins. You bring in a guy that Hawkins got a taste of starting.
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold has been the starter, lost his job, reclaimed it, showed some good things late, but not a complete recapture of the previous thought process that he was going to be their starter for the next 2 or 3 years at the very least. OU has some question marks.
Yeah,
that'll do it when you're 6-6 and kind of a boat without a rudder. Juan Garza, Jerry or Bobby, can you give me your thoughtful explanation on why Texas is not going, quote, all in like Florida in NIL recruiting and like A&M in 2022? First of all, going all in is not – Texas is not abdicating anything in NIL. They may be prioritizing other players than some other people are. So Mbachu might be a good example of that, Jerry, where frankly Florida may be prioritizing him differently than Texas, and you're not going to win all these matchups. So it's not that they're not going all in. I mean, A&M went all in when it wasn't legal to go all in my opinion, or it was going to be, but it wasn't at that time. And I would also say this: recruiting's not over, Juan. Recruiting's not over. You don't know what's going to happen on signing day. Jerry Hamlin and I don't know what's going to happen. The coaches don't know what's going to happen. Texas is working extremely hard to keep some of the players they have and add some to it. It's not just a one-way street right now.
Yeah.
So they're recruiting multiple guys right now that they're trying to add to this class. So you can't get them all, but to think that Texas isn't pushing. And I will also say this: Texas is in a distinctly different situation than Florida. Texas has a different roster right now than Florida. A very different roster.
Florida, you got to remember, Florida pulled some buyout money together too. So now they got to spend it.
Yeah. There's probably some truth to that one. Mike Bass here. Any news on Nate Marshall or Kellen Wiley? Are we losing a 4-star out-of-state recruit? So Nate Marshall's the defensive lineman out of Oak Park up in the Chicago area. Kellen Wiley, the linebacker out of Tampa. You had updates on both those guys today on Texas Football, Jerry. What's the latest? First on Wiley, because this is indicative of the new age of NIL that we've been talking about. Hadn't even been really talking about this other school for, maybe they were.
Yeah, he had a visit schedule. But so Kellen Wiley, I talked to a source today and said down the 2 schools and asked 2 schools, said it'll be Texas or Maryland. And he had a visit scheduled to Maryland. I don't think he actually made that visit. It was a playoff game, but Maryland's been on him a while. But look, I give up on this one if this kid doesn't go to Texas. I mean, everybody's been expecting Texas. By the way, Joe Z just sent me a private message, said if Kellen Wiley picks Maryland, Joe Z will eat corn dogs with mayo on ontexasfootball.com. He'll post pictures of that. So so he's on record. I got it in my private message. Nate Marshall, I don't think Texas has a lot of confidence there. I just don't. Is somebody going to bounce from the Texas class? Yes. And that, I think that should be here shortly tonight.
All right. Jerry Cisco Diaz, does Texas have any interest in Grayson Harris?
Oklahoma decommit wide receiver from Ennis. That would be a surprise to me. I think Texas is very happy with the 3 guys they have. By the way, just because you do it in our job, I checked in on somebody one last time today, the name that we don't want to mention in this chat, and the answer is no.
Okay. I don't even know who it is. I'm just
a wide receiver.
Oh, Decory Moore.
I was doing my job, checking one last time. Make sure
nothing
crazy happens. That's what we do in this business. And the answer is no.
Jarrett Johnson says, any immediate news from the big 2025 recruits that attended Saturday? So Fasusi, Nick Townsend. We talked about Fasusi already a little bit, Jerry. Anything to add there? What about Nick Townsend?
Yeah, I talked to Nick Townsend tonight, and I think things are good with Texas there. He's not going to be an early enrollee, though. And that was kind of a couple of those kids have been in the balance if they were going to be or not. So I guess he'll just stay in high school and run a 10.75 at 240 pounds this spring and impress the hell out of everybody. And it'll be too late for people to move him to 5-star at that point. Yeah, I think things are good with Nick Townsend in Texas. The funny one from that game, we've talked about Fasusi. The funny thing that I learned coming out of that game was Zion Williams was there, the LSU commit. And after the game, he texted the Texas members of the Texas staff, congratulations on the win.
But still not going to Texas.
I mean,
who knows?
It would surprise me, but it was just funny.
I gotcha. Hey, this was something that we made you talked about, Jerry. Who did Michael Fasusi, the big offensive lineman, attend his Aggie visit with? You were saying that his dad went with him to Texas, but didn't know if the mom was going to go to A&M. What's the deal there?
Mom did not go on either one of those visits. So I believe it was dad's sister on both of them. Dad's sister in Austin. I believe it was dad's sister again at A&M. My dad for sure, obviously, made that trip, but mom didn't make either trip.
Hey, Daniel, and this is a really fair question. Jerry, you said this is the wildest cycle that you have ever covered. Can you explain exactly what that means? I tried to explain a little bit, Jerry, but put it into your own words.
3 5-star quarterbacks change schools within 2.5 weeks of signing date. That makes it wild to start.
So nationally
wild. I mean, Ohio State's had guys decommit, right? I mean, this class is crazy in the last couple of months to me. And those quarterbacks, I think, really kind of, from a national perspective, just set the thing off a little bit. And, the season Colorado's had, they've flipped some guys, right? But then also, I think another thing that's making this really wild is we're profit sharing's coming to college athletics. And Bobby can talk in more depth about this than I can. But I do think that's made it a mad dash at the end of this cycle because the wild, wild west days I think are coming to an end. And so I think, oh my gosh, and the schools know it. And I think there's some schools that are just, man, there's all in, there's all in everything, just everything all in. And I think you're seeing that because profit sharing is coming in July. So a lot of these schools are making this one last mad dash in the wild, wild west world. That's what I believe is what's going on in this cycle. And here's the other thing from a Texas perspective. It's been a while since Texas has had this many really, really good players from the Southeast region committed in a class. And that's going to create more turbulence at the end of a class for Texas because
you're not competing against Baylor and Texas Tech anymore.
Yeah.
TCU.
I mean, you're talking about Myron Charles in Port Charlotte, talking about Jamie French in Jacksonville. Mbatu was in Atlanta area. Auburn's tried on Nick Brooks. Zealous Hicks is from Carrollton outside of Atlanta. I mean, the guys you're still fighting for, Justice Terry in Manchester, down by closer to Columbus than Atlanta. I mean, you just look at the guys that you're battling on or that you have committed. Texas has a tremendous class committed, number 4 class in the country. And Texas is recruiting more guys in the Southeast region. So for those that don't like turbulence in recruiting, this is going to be tough few years for you because, and that includes me, I love covering those kids, but there's going to be turbulence in these classes because of where Texas is getting guys and how good they are. And then when it gets close to the end, these in-state schools, they have to fight. They're going to put up a fight. You can't just let an elite defensive lineman like Myron Charles just say, bye, state of Florida, I'm just heading to Austin without a fight.
It's like you're not just fighting. Look, Texas used to fight to the end against maybe Oklahoma and TCU. Now you're fighting. You're not fighting Oklahoma. You're fighting Florida, which in their backyard is big, or if not bigger. You've got Georgia that they're fighting. Then Auburn's going to be in there. It's not just one that you're like used to, oh, Texas fighting A&M for this guy. Well, no, now they're fighting A&M, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee. I mean, these are big time programs.
Yeah.
I mean, and so part of the reason this is crazy right now, in my opinion, for Jerry and even for coaches and other people trying to work this, is the stakes have been upped. The antes are up right now. You're recruiting at a different level. And so that's not bad that it's crazy. It just is. And so you have to weather the storm and make sure you come out of it with what you need. And that's what Texas tried to do. And I'm going to go to this immediately. The portal is right around the corner.
Yes. So and I think that's going to be super.
Do you want to rock the portal and be all in on the portal? Quote unquote, all in, where you've got guys coming back next year. I mean, you still know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's my whole point is all of the confluence of these things has made it crazy.
Yeah.
College football has made it crazy. It sure is fun to follow.
And by the way, hey, Bobby, that's a great point. In a 12-team playoff, that puts even more pressure on these schools, because if you're the University of Florida, in the next you have DJ Lagway 2 more years. If you don't make a college football playoff with him,
yeah,
everybody's going to get fired.
Well, I mean, you got Arch Manning at Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, look, my point is this is, Deion Sanders is sitting over there saying, why would I take a high school recruit right now? I mean, he just had the number one cornerback in the country commit to him a year ago. And he didn't want him back the second year because he wasn't good enough in his opinion.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I can just go to the portal and get somebody that's played 30 games.
Yeah.
So you've got some coaches just going exact opposite, and then they come back and say, oh, well, we want some high school recruits. It's just odd like that. This one from Blake, I'm going to try to get through a couple of these super chats real quick. Who would you rather have, Colt 09 or Quinn 24? I mean, no offense to Quinn, but Colt 09 and 08, his 08 season. I just say Colt. I don't know what else to say.
No offense to Quinn, but Colt adds the athleticism to the position as well. That it's just a little different in college football.
This is an interesting one. Tito Enrique. Bobby, what's the chance you get one of these agents on the show to speak to their end of the process and how they help? I'm going to put help in quotes these college athletes with their decision. Jerry's saying 0. I'm not going to say 0. I will say not until let's give that until like January, February, after the portal is closed, because I don't want to give them a platform to just espouse for their players. But I think that's a good mid-January, late January one after the portal is kind of closed. Maybe, Jerry, you agree with that?
Yeah,
that might be fair. Okay, all right. Aloha Traveler. Oh man, thanks for the big super chat. Aloha fellas, just want to say thank you for all the hard work this year. It's been an amazing ride with you both. Question: what was more enjoyable for you, last year's regular season or this one?
Oh, this one.
What positions are going to be added via portal? Man,
can I answer the first? I'll let you hit the portal. This first one's easy. It's this year. The Big 12's a snooze fest. I mean, I had to set my alarm to get up for some of those games. And because the business I work in, I like talent on the field. But more than that, I mean, Arkansas was back. The A&M rivalry was back. Texas went to the big house, Michigan. You put it all together, it's not even close. First year in the SEC, just not even close. And maybe also because you're coming off a playoff run and you wanted to see if it could be done again. And how would this team respond after last year? Is there any complacency? Did the culture hold up? Just you add it all up, who would step up on this team this year? What would some of those young guys from all those top 5 recruiting classes look like in year 2 and in year 3? And it's been an amazing year. And the crazy thing is, you get to play Georgia twice. And I've been saying all year, maybe not, because maybe it wouldn't work out this way. But I said, like, I think in June in one of these shows, if Texas and Georgia met 3 times this year, that means you're playing in a national championship game. And I was thinking maybe both teams would have 1 loss right now. I didn't think Georgia would have 2. So maybe you get seeded and funky where you play the national semifinal. But I mean, I don't even think it's close, Bobby.
I will say this much. I've liked the 23 season more for some of the reasons Jerry mentioned. I'll add some in a second. But my favorite win outside of the one that just happened 2 days ago
at Bama.
Yeah. Because for the first time, how many times did Texas host Maryland and just, or go to Maryland and just flub the, you know what, out of it? What about Cal? Texas lost both games to Cal. Okay, in preseason. So Alabama last year, I felt like announced the arrival of Texas as a team to be reckoned with. We didn't know still if they were going to go on and do anything about it, right, Jerry? So Alabama last year was my favorite game until the game Saturday was such an utter domination. I mean, a physical domination of an opponent that, by the way, has been crowing for 13 years about how they're more SEC ready than the other, and they've lost 3 of the last 4 games. They've lost the last 3 SEC games they played. Texas is now in the SEC championship game. A&M's never been. So from a season perspective, I think last year, I was a little bit more just riding a high, like riding the wave. Now it's more like, okay, what does all this mean? You can really sit back and try to evaluate more what all's going on. So I've liked this season slightly more, but nothing was like that feeling in Tuscaloosa last year. All right, last one here. What positions are going to be added via the portal? Jerry, I've mentioned defensive line.
Wide receiver.
Defensive line and maybe 1 or 2 wide receivers, depending on who's available. Potentially running back if Cedric Baxter is hurt and not progressing. Maybe DB. They're losing at least 3 DBs, if not 4, as starters. So you might think you might see 1 come in that way. You've said no to offensive line because that's just not what Kyle Flood has done in his history. He hasn't taken portal guys. Any other baby punter, we think that would be from seeing that would be one.
I want to ask you about one. If Trey Moore went pro, would they look at edge?
How good is he?
That's the thing. If you could replace Trey Moore, would you do it?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
That's the one I've thought about recently.
Because they don't really have anybody at that position right now other than Colin Simmons. Because Zena Umeozulu's strong side. They've flipped Ethan Burke to be strong side. Colton Vosick, strong side. So, yeah, maybe. That's a good one. More of a weak side rush end.
They could drop in coverage, yep.
Yeah, Sark was talking about the value of that today a little bit. And he was saying, look, we got Trey Moore, we got Colin Simmons, and Anthony Hill. Good luck figuring out which one to block.
Yeah.
He's like, look, and you can mix up who the spy is that way. It's just it's not. He's not saying it's an undefeatable defense by any stretch in that way, but he's right. I mean, think of the permutations an offensive line has to account for, and not just the offensive line, but if they're going to spy a quarterback like they did Marcel Reed on Saturday, Jerry, who the spy is going to be is also who you're looking at.
Right.
Well, what are my escape routes? Because I'm a run-first quarterback at some level. All right, tug on your hoodie again if we're getting everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
People are hitting the Harold Perkins thing again. I earlier the report was that was kind of not true. I don't know if something's come out in the last 12 minutes or so. I don't think
That was a meme early that was obviously fake news.
Yeah.
But they were quoting On3, and it wasn't from an On3 account.
Right.
Now, has something changed? Maybe, but I don't think so. How many weeks do you get off if you win the SEC championship? I believe it's 3, right?
Yeah.
Because you get 2 weeks off.
2.5.
You play 2 weeks. So, and then it's another 10 days after the 20th. You don't play. If you win the SEC championship, you do not play until January 1st.
Yep.
So what's the game's on the 8th? Is that right? 8th or 9th? Can't remember. This weekend.
Yeah.
So that's how long you get off. All right. Next question, Jose Rodriguez. Jerry, are some of these schools with coaches on the hot seat taking 1-year rentals on high school recruits? Bold strategy. Any update on Bond's ankle?
I think Bond's okay. He wasn't even on the injury report last week at all. So unless he's on it come Wednesday, I think Texas deems him 100% or as close
He
to
and DeAndre Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well, so this, if you're talking about it like a Florida specifically, I think Napier's off the hot seat, and I think I think they have a good schedule. That some of that hard schedule is back next year, but I if he went 7-5 this year on it, he'll probably go at 8-4 on it next year at worst, because that's a tough schedule again. But it's still, he's got a good young quarterback, got a really good young running back, and they got some pieces over there. But I'm trying. I don't know who else you would be talking about. Get more specific with a team on that.
Yeah, I want to say this. Maybe I don't know who. Maybe he's asking about Kelvin Banks' ankle. Also, should we let me say that real quick, because we have not taken this question, Jose. So I hope you don't mind me using that super chat as part of this. Kelvin Banks, according to Steve Sarkisian, is somewhat similar to Quinn Ewers at the same time a week ago, but right now he feels pretty good about it. Quote, feel pretty good about it. So would not say anything more than that. My guess, he's questionable on Wednesday, and then we see what he's listed at on Thursday of this week. You agree with that, Jerry?
That he's going to try to give it a go.
Yeah, no doubt. Just like Wednesday.
Yeah, he's going to try to give it a go.
Yep. All right. Colton Martinez here, one of our favorite UT Austin students. Who was a better high school prospect, DK Moore now or Micah Hudson? And you even said this last year. Go ahead.
I wish we could archive this. I was saying it when Micah was a senior. DK Moore, it wasn't even close.
You called him the best receiver in the state last year.
And probably before that. That's how talented he is. He's a super freak. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't care where these kids go to school. I'm going to give you a real take on it. DeCorian's a super freak. And if he's not a first-round pick, he didn't do it right, or he had bad injuries. He's just all these freshman receivers you see in college football this year. It's a different body type, but he's also only Ryan Williams can hold his jock after the catch. He would be right there at the top of that group with those guys. He's that good. He's that good. There's just no doubt about it. Micah Hudson, good player, really good hands. And even time you're a soccer goalie and a receiver, I know you got a pair of mitts on you and you have reactive quickness. I kind of wondered about his speed a little bit. And he also, I'm not trying to be mean, he went down a notch when he picked Tech, because if you're a 5-star receiver and that's your decision, I'm not sure how laser focused you really are on this thing.
Yeah.
And now he's in the portal. That if you look around college football, that's not the decision of a 5-star receiver that's laser focused.
Doesn't pass the sniff test, to your point. Yeah, I get it. Good question. And thanks, Colton. Good to see you again here in the chat. Juan Garza, is Texas interested in the DL for Texas A&M? It's Gabe Brownlow Denby.
Bad injuries. He's had bad injuries.
Not expected to be interested, I guess, is what Jerry.
He's originally from Lakeland, Florida. You see where he goes. Good USF. He needs to go somewhere and get on the field, because he had a really bad knee injury, and I'm not sure he's ever fully recovered from it.
Can we agree, Brazier, Tim, can we agree getting Quinn to commit made Texas a cool school? Worthy, Bond, A.D. Mitchell, don't come to Texas if Murphy or Card are the you don't have to tell me that.
That was big, Brazier. That was big when he came home from Ohio State and in the same class when Mario Cristobal. By the way, I can't believe Miami's still being discussed for the playoffs. If this committee's not going to do that, surely that's another discussion. They're terrible on defense. But combined with Kelvin Banks, Flip, 5-star DJ Campbell, it all happened like boom, boom, boom in a short amount of time. And that really helped turn the tide. But Quinn's decision to come home was big, and it'll always be underrated, I think. But at the time, that was a really big deal. I mean, and you know how big it was for Sark because it was official visit weekend, and he left during the official visit weekend and hopped on a bird to get up to South Lake to meet with Quinn and his family. That's how big of a deal Texas staff thought it was.
Yeah, Bryce, you got no problem with me agreeing with you on that one. Oh, I love this now. Josie, Jerry still hasn't been held accountable for him picking the Aggies to win. Yeah,
I look, I own it in the prediction show. I had 10-2 with losses to Georgia at A&M. I own it.
Let me ask you this, and everybody,
27-23 last week.
Time out. I want to ask everybody honestly in the chat. Going into the season, I had Texas 10-2. You had Texas. I mean, we expected a good season, right? They're 11-1, second straight year they've kind of done this. And I want to ask you this: going into the year, knowing what you know was coming back at Texas on defense, losing who they lost on defense, Sweat and Murphy last year, and knowing that Elko is a defensive coach with all the talent they had on defense, which one did you think would have the better defense this year, A&M or Texas?
Probably Texas by a little, but not a lot. It was a lot.
Jerry, be honest.
No, by a little.
You thought with A&M, with Scourton, with Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart.
Secondary was.
Yeah, but they went and got Will Lee in the portal.
No, I'm not a Will Lee fan.
Well, my point is,
yeah,
I bet if you weren't a Texas fan and you would have asked Paul Feinbaum that, he would have said A&M. Texas graduates too much. They play in the weak Big 12. They'll see what big boy ball is. I bet 90%. My point is, college football experts or analysts would have said, "Oh, it's going to be A&M. Elko's the DC now. He's going to get it figured out." He got it figured out all right. I'm going on here. I'm on a roll, baby. Here we go. Jose Rodriguez. Better team, 23 Texas or 24 Texas so far. 24 in my opinion. Not close. Not close. Better defense. Not as explosive on offense, but a better offensive line. I mean, Texas has a chance to have 5 guys that are going to be drafted on the offensive line and 4 of them, have multiple year starters. I mean, 3 of them are 3-year starters. Y'all realize that? One of them's a 4-year starter. That's just unheard of. That's unheard of. All right, we got a couple more questions to get to here. I'm going to try to get this to you guys, but I want to say thank you one more time to our sponsor. That is John Donovan of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. As a proud UT alum, John has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Exes board member and is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County Exes chapter, which will be hosting an awesome SEC championship tailgate and game watch party this Saturday at the Brass Tap in Plano. For all those fans in and around Collin County, get in touch with John for more details. John also wants to remind everyone that while the holiday season is busy, it can also provide some downtime to really focus on positioning your financial plans to enter 2025 on the right path. John and his team at Longhorn Wealth want to remind everyone to take advantage of their offer for a free 90-minute private consultation. Visit John at longhornwealth.net or simply call 972-707-4900. That's 972-707-4900 4900 to schedule your free private consultation today. John hopes to see all of you in Atlanta, or at least as many that can get there, to help cheer on the Longhorns in the SEC championship game.
By the way, I can say that I can already say this, but we know our prediction shows months away. I will start 10-2 again next year. I just don't know who that's going to be yet. I start 10-2 every year.
Ooh, now you did. When we started this thing, we didn't start 10-2.
Well, no. But I mean, like last 2 years, I've been 10-2, 10-2.
Same here.
I'm starting 10-2 and go from there after the second big game of the year. I mean, it's at Ohio State this year.
Josie, Jerry, you zip it.
This is Dan Lanning guy right here.
What's up with Physicality, Akana, and Justice Finkley? I think those are or Akina and Finley. I mean, you could be talking about Dwayne Akina and Jermichael Finley, but I think you're talking about Physicality, Akana, and Justice Finkley. Justice Finkley, Jerry, just has not played that much as a junior. Physicality, Akana has not played much either of his first 2 years in Austin.
Yeah.
So
it's I don't really have anything other than just guys are ahead of them. I mean, there's sometimes just guys are win jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, somebody asked Champ Bailey, would Devin Sanchez stay committed to Ohio State if Day was fired? What'll be interesting with Ohio State is all these guys will sign next week. Okay. Ohio State's going to be playing a playoff game December 20th. If Day loses that game, I think it's up for grabs what happens, Bobby, if he loses the first round playoff game.
He's gone.
So majority of these kids nowadays are early enrollees mid-January. So if Day got tripped up in an 8-9 game in the first round, December 20th or 21st, and they say you're out, then those kids would have to do something really quick. And
how fast do they hit the portal?
Yeah. And do those kids have to? Well, would they just get released from their scholarship papers at that point? Because
going to be money involved here too. With
that's
all of those Ohio State kids are in a NIL guys,
right? But they haven't enrolled in classes yet, so I don't know how it would work. But it would be a very short window for those kids.
Very, very short. Thank you so much, Longhorn Frenzy, with the super chat. Great show tonight, fellas. Thank you very much, Longhorn Frenzy. We're here to have a little fun, talk a little football, and go from there. All right, this is a good one. Keegan Kutza says, so we switched to the icy whites for the SEC championship game now? Has that changed? It has changed. Matt, our producer. So Texas is now going to have the road unis. I guess they decided to go the icy whites on Saturday. That's right. Matt's telling us that. That's very cool. I did not know that. I don't know when that happened, but awesome. I love the icy whites, man. I'm big on that. So I'm good for this. Is there oh wow.
Ooh, that's tradition game right there.
That looks tight, man.
That is tradition game. Wow.
I love games like this, man. I'm going to go down. I'm going to be down in Atlanta starting on Thursday. So we'll see how that goes. Jameson, Washington, Jerry, how many recruits do you think we lose and how many portal guys will we get because of that? Not necessarily a 100% symbiotic relationship there. I don't think. What do you think overall, though? At least one more we know that Texas is going to, and that could come out as soon as.
And that will make two. I mean, I can't say two for sure. Not in this cycle. I mean, it's a possibility a third guy. I think Texas is going to add at least two. Actually, sorry, that's wrong. I think Texas is going to add at least 4 in this class. Look, I think Texas remains in a good spot for Michael Terry. I mean, if Kellen Wiley picks Maryland over Texas, I give up. I'll be Josie's special assistant at Scoop Duck. But I think Michael Susi, maybe chance there. We'll see what happens. Maybe somebody else. I mean, Javion Hilson, Texas is still fighting for him. Sark closes well. This would be the first time he doesn't close well. I don't tend to think that's going to happen.
Jason Hablinski. We just at some point you and I need to keep our mouths shut. Don't forget that, Jerry Hamilton. Jason Hablinski. How about Colton Vosick? Haven't seen him since the injury. That's true. We haven't seen him out there. He was actually running pretty strong third team and getting some reps. I wonder what's going on there. It could be any number of things. The last 2 weekends, but he was coming back from injury against Kentucky, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
Against A&M, he's running third team. They may not have wanted to put a third teamer out there at this time.
Yeah.
But they have liked what they've seen from him. Hey, Matt, if Dylan Farrelly has a question, can you look that up for me? I can't find it in the chat. Dylan, if you didn't post one, please feel free to do so, and we'll get it. It's Dylan Farrelly. All right, Aggie grad 0%er, new to the chat. Who replaces Broughton and Collins? Man, I would love to know that myself right now.
Yeah,
obviously, Alex January is a major possibility. Texas has loved what they've seen from the young freshman from Duncanville. Sadir Mitchell has come on in the second half of this year. Texas could look there as well. Jerry, other possibilities in your opinion?
Too early to tell for me. I mean, it's just that there's going to be work to be done to sign these high school guys committed. And then you have what's left in recruiting possibilities. Then you have the portal. I think it's to be determined, honestly, Bobby.
It's fair. I think it's too early as well. I think that the bigger pitch. So here's my take on this. Let's go back to this question, okay? It's not necessarily who replaces Broughton and Collins. It's who replaces Broughton, Collins, Lole, Norton. It's 4.
And we don't, by the way, we've been kind of saying, hey, Tia Savea may be redshirting. I don't expect him back either. Maybe he's redshirting and he's going to go somewhere else. I think I'd be surprised if it was at Texas. So, I mean, Sadir Mitchell will be back.
Yeah, we would hope.
Be back.
Yeah.
We should. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt, for pulling this up for us. Dylan Farrelly, thanks. Sorry about that. What's the number one key to victory versus Georgia? And what's the number one thing the Horns need to improve on that's been an issue of late? Kicking, field goal kicking for me. Taking care of the ball by Quinn. I didn't like it against Kentucky last week, and I didn't like it against A&M. That would be one of the number of things that you want to improve. Key to victory for Texas. If you told me Texas rushed for 150 against Georgia, that's a win. What do you think, Jerry?
Oh, yeah.
If Texas rushed for 150, that's a win.
Oh, yeah.
If Georgia doesn't rush for 75,
that's a big win.
Okay.
But because Georgia, the first time Texas and Georgia played, it was 70 or 72%. I can't remember what I was told, that they were lined up in pass shell offense pre-snap. That number has gone down. Kirby's got Bobo running the ball a little bit more now. And I think, obviously, that wasn't Georgia football in pass shell 70% of the time. That's not Georgia under Kirby. And maybe that's helped Beck a little bit, leaning more on the run game. But if you hold this Georgia team this go round, who is going to have more emphasis on the run, but ETN it'll be interesting. Is he out or is he questionable for Saturday? How he's going to be listed Wednesday. But Georgia's going to they're going to try to run the football more as well in this game. So I wonder if we may have a less possession game by one if both of them are trying to run the football a little bit more in this game.
Sure. Let me ask you this, Jerry. What if I told you Texas had 0 turnovers? Who wins? Is that because what do you think?
I think Texas needs to turn back over.
So what if I told you Georgia had 3 turnovers? Is that a Texas win?
Well, Texas better win in that case.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find one key to victory for Dylan.
My key to victory is no turnovers in your own end of the field, no catastrophic turnovers, which Quinn's had each of the last 2 weeks. Kentucky game didn't matter, but that's 2 touchdowns. The defense didn't have a chance to stop somebody. And let's say this. Let's say Bird Auburn's perfect on field goals Saturday.
Okay, fair.
So Bert Auburn has a 3-for-3 game. Keep him off the right hash.
You're something else, dude. I love it.
Well, he's right hash missing right now. I mean, that's his.
I get it.
I mean, it's like somebody who
golf game. Sometimes it just slides right, baby.
Look, when I was playing basketball, I was a pretty good shooter. There'd be a stretcher maybe from the right corner, man. I just wasn't. It just didn't feel good coming out of your hand from the right corner. Maybe it had some backboard angles. I was too far in the right corner. It happens. Keep him off the right hash right now. That's all I'd say.
Lock and Horns, can you explain why Texas is the favorite after the matchup, and it's with Georgia, and it is essentially a road game? Texas is playing this game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. The campus is about an hour away from downtown Atlanta. Why is Texas the favorite? More consistent this season? That would be my piece.
Are they factoring in Georgia playing an 8 overtime game? I know they had the extra day, but it probably didn't feel like it to legs that played an 8 overtime game, even though 2-point conversions were.
I was going to say, how many more?
Really yeah. Maybe that was a more physical taxing game, and maybe all those things are being factored in.
Well, why don't you go tell Mike? Why don't you really get Mike Elko's face to turn red and tell him that Georgia Tech was a more physical game than A&M?
Georgia Tech was more physical against Georgia than A&M was against Texas.
Yeah, I agree. Is there a pregame? Bevo Holic, thanks for the super chat. Is there a pregame event for OTF in Atlanta? Working with some folks right now at the Atlanta, Texas Exes. Hopefully we have some get together on Friday evening. They are working out the details, etc. We will definitely do something. We also have a live show going on. I think it's going to start around 10 a.m. on Saturday morning as well. We'll talk more about that in the coming days. But if you're going, I'll make sure you guys know everything about what we're doing while we're out there. Would love to see you guys come on out and everything.
By the way, thank you for the ETN stuff. I thought people had said he probably wouldn't play, but I hadn't honestly looked that up. So Kirby Smart said doubtful yesterday, right? Bobby didn't think.
Yeah, I was on the conference call.
Said
he said, look, I mean, we just don't think, we've been so banged up at running back, and we're not really getting that much healthier right now.
Yeah,
these guys need some time off, is what he said. And then he went on to say that the young freshman Frazier out of Mater Dei in California has been pretty good for him.
He's a stud.
Yeah, so good.
He's a future second, late first round pick level kid. I think he's really good.
All right, Jerry. Oh wow. Question here: do you think we look for a punter and kicker in the portal? Definitely a punter, and I don't say that to take a shot at Michael Kern because he's a freshman. You just don't know where his leg's going to go. But if you get somebody that can average 45 yards or 44 yards a boot with good hang time, and he's done it for 3 or 4 years, like Ryan Sanborn had done at Stanford, I think you take him immediately and don't look back. And that's no offense to anybody currently on the team. It's just, look, if you can get yourself 3 to 5 yards better and not have as much concern, you got to do it. You agree with that, Jerry?
Yes.
What about kicker? Bert Auburn did not walk
right
2 weeks ago during the Kentucky game. So we think he's coming back. It would only make sense that he is since he didn't walk. Yeah. You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Not that I 100% know, but I do agree with that statement. Yes.
Okay. If we beat Georgia, D-Money can't get money. If we beat Georgia, I need all Texas fans to troll Uncle Lou. I don't even know who Uncle Lou is, but I'm putting it out there for you guys, D-Money, just so you understand. Can we look for a new Jerry in the portal? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Billy Lucci's probably got someone for us, Jerry.
Ooh. Yeah. And whoever it is, they're going to love Schloss.
I love it. Oh, we didn't even ask Billy about that. We didn't even ask that when we had him on last week. All right, Jerry, that's going to do it for this evening's Talkin' Ball here with Jerry Hamilton and Bobby Burton, our producer, Matt Hutchinson. Matt, thank you. We are 36 hours away from National Signing Day on Wednesday. It is going to be a full smorgasbord of hours of coverage starting at around 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning. We'll go at least until 11, then come back from 1 to 3, and then go 4 to 6 at the very least, maybe even more than that. Just all depends on what is necessary. We're going to try to break down all the recruits, some of the last-minute moves that are happening. And by the way, I don't know how else to say this, there are last-minute moves being made right now. Just period, end of story. We cannot tell you guys all of what's going on. It's nuts. But suffice to say, Texas fighting and others fighting Texas right now. We've divulged as much as we can. Jerry, you want to say anything before we go?
It's where you want to be. If you aren't in these battles, you may as well be in the Big 12.
All right. Jerry, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and talking with us and chatting. Let us know if you ever need anything. For Jerry Hamilton and Matt Hutchinson, I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good night. Hook 'em.